Well, that's weird. I just went live, but my screen suddenly just showed a big black square. Craig Fisher and I are going to have technical flaws the whole way. That's what I figured. Listen, Craig, I am so glad that you're here. We were just saying privately that it's been a minute since we caught up. You and I last spent time together at the HR Florida event, which was 2016, maybe? Was that
Florida SHRM? I think it was 2016. It's been a bit.
Florida SHRM.
Yeah,
that's something else. Now you're in the talent space, talent acquisition. Mm-hmm. You help a lot of companies do things in that space. How do you describe your experience besides talent acquisition? Kind of walk it through.
Well, so former staffing firm owner and staffing company leader, recruiter for years since like 1995. Before that, I sold drugs, pharmaceuticals. Yeah, but since I owned a staffing firm, I was trying to not sell things. I was trying to do things on an inbound basis, right? I'm a HubSpot fanatic, as are you. And so I started putting great content out in the world about, how to get a job and how to connect with candidates, and all the experience that I built up over the years. I started just putting it out there as content, and it brought me clients, and it also brought me job candidates. So I started teaching companies how to do that. And back then, we just called it communications, right? It was marketing. It was inbound marketing for recruiting. Now, many years later, we call it employer branding, and that's what I still do.
Employer branding. See, I didn't even know that term. I didn't. I mean, I get it. It makes utter sense. And that was my experience going and doing a couple of HR events. Like, I don't know how this crossover event happened with me, that I've talked only marketing and sales my whole career. Right. And then some people for Oracle HR said, come on over. It'll be fun. Mm-hmm. We're going to talk to a whole bunch of CMOs. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And someone at, now Florida SHRM contacted me because of that event. And next thing you know, I'm meeting you and hanging out with you again.
That's right.
So
it was
I've just been a glancing blow guy until then. And, here you are, Mr. Talent. We're in these times. We're in these difficult times. I know this because I get an email about that 8 times a day. It is difficult. People are losing their roles almost always because of nothing they can handle. 400 or 500 people get let go at a time. Mm-hmm. Talk about the world right now, what you're seeing out there professionally, and maybe give some people a level set on some of this.
Well, so it's interesting. A lot of high level and really talented people are flooding the market. People get laid off for various reasons, right? And most of the time in times like this, they're told on their way out the door, this is not about performance. We're going to give you some money to walk away with. And so recruiters are finding there's an abundance of really talented people, and there's not enough jobs for these people right now. So the market has literally just flipped. It was a candidates market 6 months ago, completely opposite right now. So I went through a layoff as well. So I was working for a company called Allegis Global Solutions. It's one of the largest privately held staffing companies in the world. And it owns Aerotech and Tech Systems, was started by the owner of the Baltimore Ravens in 1984. So big company, right? And my division laid off a third of the workforce. Now it's an RPO, that's recruitment process outsourcing. So it means we have to flex when companies flex, right? Because we're the outsourced recruiting team. And so, we've got companies like, Hilton and, big hotel groups that literally laid off everyone, and we're not hiring. And even CVS, who was hiring, we only did their corporate roles and they weren't doing any of that. So we had to shrink, and that's what happens. Now, they may ask me back at some point. They've offered to contract me back, but I've kind of said, I'm going to see what else is out there. I'm not sure the RPO market is going to be stable for a while. I think employment is going to be down for about 2 years.
All right. So now I'm more lost than ever. And I have to tell you this because, people will ask me hiring advice. I say, I've worked for myself since 2007. You have to imagine that some of what's going on out there is a little different. Like, for instance, someone was asking me about the right way to format a resume. And I said, well, I'm pretty sure robots are the only thing that read resumes anymore. Mm-hmm. Can you talk just a little bit about this? Let's say that someone else on this call, you went through a layoff and you're like a guy in the talent world. Like, to me, that's like, we start cutting there, but I get it. Like the nature of that business is that. So if all those firms are suddenly not hiring, then there's no real need to have you on. Can you talk about this at all? Like, what's the system like? What do people have to do to get ready now? Right. If I get laid off from the pretend corporation I work at, what's Chris Brogan do the next day?
Well, so I'm like you, right? I always have my consulting business going on in tandem with whatever job I'm doing. If I'm actually doing enough work for a company to hire me on full time, then I kind of back away from some of the other things or do them on the side. And that's the agreement I make with companies when they hire me. Look, I'm also going to do this. I run the largest recruitment conference in Texas and the Southwest, and I do consulting for companies, whatever. That's always going on. So I recommend to all job seekers to start your LLC no matter what, because then you never have a gap in your resume because you're always doing your own thing at some point. You keep that going. You keep the content cranking out through those channels and don't have those big gaps in sort of communication with your network. But you're right about resumes. So an applicant tracking system is the machine that companies use to filter resumes. And if your resume is not applicant tracking system friendly, you're going to, kind of wash out in the system and not get stack ranked in the top 10 or 20% of job candidates. And there's
okay, I got to pause right here because first off, one thing I've noticed immediately is that even more than some other parts of the industry that are getting more and more technology driven, there's a lot of TLAs going on over there. Mm-hmm. Applicant tracking system, RKO. Whatever. These are all words I've never heard before.
Right. Too many acronyms.
How different is this? How different is this from I think the last job I applied for? Well, I don't even remember. Probably the 90s. Mm-hmm. How different a world is it? You already just told me you got to make a resume that only robots can read.
Right.
What else?
So recruiters do still see resumes, but they only see the ones filtered up to the top by the system, the applicant tracking system. So it's a little different than when you last applied for a job in the 90s, primarily because we do have all these sourcing technologies that literally compare your resume and the keywords in it to the job. And so these filtering systems actually literally stack rank the top, however many candidates, primarily based on keywords and some other semantic things. The other thing that's different now is we make it too easy to apply to jobs. So there's the easy apply button on LinkedIn, which is great because it just uses your LinkedIn profile. But that also really needs to be applicant tracking system friendly because the same system uses that information to put you in contention for the job. And so now recruiters have too many candidates, and that's why we have to use this technology in order to filter through.
I have a confession to make, and it involves this. I use the easy apply button. I was going to say past tense, but it would be a lie. Mm-hmm. I use the easy apply button just to talk to a human at these places and say, well, what I really am is a consultant. I don't really want a day job. 0 for 20 attempts so far. Is that the deal? Have you tried that? Does it work? Am I just bad at it? What's the deal?
I do it all the time. I get called about jobs on a regular basis anyway, because I've got a lot of experience in what I do. Right. And I always have the conversation. In fact, I've never turned down a job interview, and it's because of the same thing. You pivot that into, I'll help you set it up. You really can't afford me on a full-time basis, but I'll help you set it up, and then I'll help you find the right people, and then I'll train them to do the job. And you just turn that into a consulting gig, right? And so always take those interviews and try the easy apply button. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't cost anything, but keep track of it. That's where job seekers go wrong. They don't keep track of where they've applied, and then they don't follow up. So try the easy apply button, but then go find all the recruiters that work for that company and connect with them. And then write some content about what that company could do better and tag all the recruiters. Post it on LinkedIn and tag all those recruiters, and they'll find you.
So for a long time in the old days, I would poop on LinkedIn and say mean things about him as often as I could.
Right.
Mostly because Reid Hoffman and I kind of didn't agree back in the way old days. He got really mad at me because I was what they used to call a promiscuous connector. I just say yes to anybody back in the day.
Me too.
The problem with that was that it would wreck some of their software sometimes.
Yeah.
And so quite literally in meetings, sometimes they'd say blah, blah, but Chris Brogan by name, like in the way old days. And so anyway, that's the old days.
A lot of my recruiter friends have the same problem. Yes.
I know what you mean. Well, and by the way, who is the number one person out there trying to link with anybody is a recruiter, right? Mm-hmm. So, or real estate.
Yeah.
So where I was going though, before I kind of segued into my problem in the past was LinkedIn used to not be the place to be.
Yep.
They've done so much to be the place to be. They've added Lynda, they've added, SlideShare, they've added all these content tools.
Mm-hmm.
Ostensibly, some people can actually do live video there.
Yeah, ostensibly.
Supposedly, if you're like blessed, they'll give you a newsletter account.
Right.
But people do it. Is it the place? If someone is, because you and I are still tweet guys still, is LinkedIn still the place? Like you just have to, if you're still grinding around looking for some gigs, you got to be there, or what's the story?
I think LinkedIn is a great place for many reasons, but I've never been just a one platform guy, right? If you have access to all these other channels to promote what you're doing, use them, right? I get tons of leads from Facebook. I mean, Facebook's great for me, but LinkedIn is really great because you can do live video on Facebook, but you can also just record a video and post it, right? So up to 10 minutes. And I'd say suggest 3, but video on Facebook gets 20 times more sharing and liking and comments than any other type of content. And it's the easiest thing to do. People are scared of video, but to me, it's way easier than writing, right? There's no research involved in a video. Well, I mean, maybe a little bit, but it really works. And so again, if you do some research about a company you want to work for or do some business with and publish it on LinkedIn and create a little video about it and talk about it and then tag all the people in that company, you're going to get some gigs. It just works.
Just happens that way.
That's right.
So the few times we hung out back in the day, back when I was Chris Brogan, you're me in that HR space in a lot of ways. Like, you've been everywhere and you've done all the things. You've done those big keynotes. It's changed. Like all industries have changed, but your direct experience of this notwithstanding about getting, let go from one company because there's just not enough bodies to go around. Mm-hmm. When people start finally having us back inside their buildings, and I'm sure you've been invited to as many virtual free keynotes as you can stomach.
Yep.
What's the Craig Fisher message right now? What's the story you're leaning on right now to kind of get people excited in content or whatever?
So caution is the word of the day, right? Everybody, there's this. So I think regular people are cautious and concerned. Some regular people don't care, but I think it's because they live in bubbles and they're not really in the heart of a big city. But a lot of employers are trying to rush back to work, and we're seeing spikes, of course, because of lots of things, right? So just use caution, right? Be careful. But I run live events, and I've had to pivot one that was supposed to happen March at VRBO's headquarters in Austin. I was hosted a large employer's headquarters. And so we had to push that. It's going to be a virtual event on July 17th. You can go to talentnetlive.com to see about it. It's a recruiting conference. You can learn all about careers and jobs and how recruiting works. And I say that would have been a terrible thing for me to think about a year ago. But now that I'm set up here like you are, I've got a studio. I do this all day long. I'm on camera nonstop, right? I'm not bothered by that a bit, a virtual conference. So there's platforms like Hopin. Have you seen that?
Yep.
You can go to various rooms for breakouts and vendor rooms and live chat with people. It's really cool. And so now I'm excited about that prospect, and I'm going to do it for my live events when they come back. I'm supposed to be in person with about 300 recruiting and talent acquisition people at Toyota's headquarters in Plano on November 20th. We shall see. I'm not going to start marketing it as a live event because I just don't know if it'll happen. So right. I say be patient. Don't rush it. Next year's fine. We'll even see about that. Who knows? And
the message at your events, what do you want people to hear from you? Like let's say you pick off, Sherm calls up, oh God, everybody canceled. Craig, quick, the keynote. What do you do? Right. Well, okay. So Sherm's got some PR issues right now itself, right? Oh. Sherm is not making big
statements about Black Lives Matter and things
Got
like
it.
that, right?
So their silence is the problem.
Their silence is deafening, right? And so, and they're, GOP supporters, and a lot of funding there going on. And nothing against SHRM, right? I'm a SHRM fan. I do think that they need to adjust their messaging. So that would be sort of my first and foremost thing. I'm actually a card-carrying diversity candidate, Chris. I am a Cherokee Indian, and my family lives in Sequoyah County in Oklahoma.
Wow.
Yeah. But I get told by my friends, Craig, that doesn't count. You're too white. So I'm a dumb white guy. So that's my message right now. I'm a dumb white guy. How do I need to be better? How can I help? What can I do to make a difference? And I think that's the message we need to get out, because even though in HR, we feel like there might be a large population of, let's say, Black women, the statistics are actually clear that that's not really the majority of anything. And those women, I talk to them, and they have a difficult time interviewing for jobs because they don't feel like they can be themselves. They feel like they have to be very buttoned down and not really be as transparent as they'd like to be, because they don't feel like they'll get the job. And that's just kind of inherent in what that culture is. So I think there's a lot of change that needs to happen there. And so I'm a big advocate of that.
Wow. Okay. So, I mean, that's a pretty important message as it's going on right now. And your point that people have observed that silence, it's amazing how many times organizations don't seem to think that we are looking.
That's right.
That we're not just sitting there kind of like, okay, it's a new day. And I said that on Twitter a couple different times about my friends. I said, when you don't say something, I'm marking something. Just
right.
so you know, you're in my Santa Claus book at this point, you know, and it's, it might be the wrong way to think about it, but it's not to me. To me, I'm just like, okay, well, you at least got a question mark.
Right.
You maybe don't have a burning cross, but you got a burning question mark at this point.
That's right.
So I don't know. Anyway, what a weird segue.
It's a good one.
One might even say, Craig, that it's a 90-degree segue. I'm known for really bad segues. So
it's great.
You are a man of Texas. Is that now or ever? Because then I have a follow-up question.
Well, so I've been here since 1990. I graduated. I'm from Tulsa, Oklahoma. I graduated from the great University of Oklahoma, Boomer Sooner. And I actually did an internship at the end of my time there with a company that distributes medical supplies. And I stayed an extra semester so that I would be recruited in the fall rather than the spring when everybody else is graduating. I did all my research and figured out how to get the job with the drug company that I wanted. So I already had 6 months experience in the medical field doing this internship. And I graduated when there was not good candidates around. And I got hired by Glaxo, and they moved me to Houston, Texas. And I've been here since. Now I'm in Dallas. Yeah. I was in Houston for 2 years. Yeah.
And then up to Dallas. That's, a better move. Let's just say that.
Yes.
Dallas is a great, vibrant culture. I mean, they're having a little bit of a mask wearing challenge right now, but in general, good culture.
There are more Fortune 500 headquarters per capita here than anywhere else in the country. So it is a great place to be.
What do you got to know about that? I've been there. I've been a few times. The first time I ever went, though, was 2006. I was a technology witness for a wireless telecom company I worked at the time. And I showed up in June to the court system in Dallas wearing a New England wool 3-piece suit. I looked like I had done the crime, and I was sweating all the way through. So
yeah, it's warm for sure.
And then back then, nothing in downtown Dallas was open past 9 p.m. So I had my meal at the Planet Hollywood that was down there at one time.
Yeah.
Some really nice young man. It was super ultra loud music. It's only me in the place. To which I even said, I don't mean to be like an old guy, but it's like 9 something. Can we He goes, no. He made me eat deep fried lasagna. This has nothing to do with anything.
Was it good?
Dallas. Deep fried lasagna.
Yeah.
You have 3 wonderful sons. How has the whole quarantine experience been like with all of the things going on in your world? What's home like right now?
Well, so we've just gotten to a point where we're having outdoor events again. So my youngest son plays football, and so we're doing 7-on-7 tournaments, which is fascinating.
Nice.
Some people are wearing masks, some are not, but we're about to be required to wear masks again in Tarrant County, where I live, everywhere you go. That starts today. So we shall see how that works out for outdoor football tournaments. We did have an outdoor graduation for my oldest son. So it's interesting about his class. They were all born into 9/11
Yes.
during that time, and they're graduating during COVID. So it's a really odd time for them.
Yeah, my oldest is the exact same thing. Was conceived right after 9/11, quite easily mapped, and is graduating. So that talk about end caps on somebody's life.
Right.
They're going to get to say some mean stuff to their kids. Oh, you had it tough.
Right.
So.
Yeah. No, it's. I think this class in particular will go on to do amazing things, and we'll know them as that, and they'll forever be known as that. So they better do great things. Yeah.
COVID kids. Hey, I want to stay on that topic for just a tiny minute more. Is your son, is he political? Does he find himself being political about causes? I guess is more what I'm asking, not necessarily about president.
My kids, not so much. They do feel, strongly one way or another about issues, but they are kind of the watchers and the learners.
Okay.
Right? They're not necessarily being outspoken about things, and I see that sort of cautiously a lot around here. We live in Grapevine and Southlake, Texas.
Yeah.
We did have a protest with a bunch of kids, and my kid said, "Yeah, I'm not getting anywhere near that." So
it's a strange time for that, and especially in Texas. It's Austin notwithstanding, because that doesn't count.
Right.
It is definitely a different kind of stronghold, and it's a thing. Oh, come on. How hard is a fish dog? His name is Craig Fisher. They called him fish dogs. It was a random thing back in the whale days. Tell me how that started.
Well, so originally when I wanted to start my first blog and website, craigfisher.com was taken by some famous artist in New York City, and he still hasn't given it up. And so I was teaching myself to code at the time because I was recruiting tech people, right? So I'm learning the language and trying to jump into their chat rooms and hang out. And what I found was I wanted to find some other similarities between me and the coders. And I found that a lot of the coders would write about their pets, and mostly dogs. Coders seem to be dog people more than cat people. So I started a blog about Craig Fisher and his dogs, and it was fishdogs.com. I wanted something that was short. I was seeing into the future at this point. It was like 1999. I wanted something short and something that no one would ever try to take. So that's how it happened.
That first or second time we hung out in person, someone yelled fish dogs at you from across the room, and I just stared politely like,
what's that?
That's a weird comment, but I'll just go with it. Right. Carrie, we also call her Carrie in the comments, asked the question, I need to know about this Craig's on Pinterest thing. Talk a little bit about your Pinterest experience. I took a browse around. I see a lot of business content there. What's Pinterest mean to your strategy?
So, it's funny. Pinterest has a long lifespan. And if you post pictures there, and title them appropriate keywords, and then write appropriate keywords about those pictures, they'll come up on Google searches forever. I mean, it's like an Eventbrite event. So it's really good for SEO. And so when I started my speaking career, I started posting lots of pictures of myself speaking at conferences, and, profile pics and headshots and things like that. Craig Fisher, with keywords recruiting, staffing, employer branding, et cetera, keynote speaker. And that's how people find you. It just works. And then I started posting a lot of job tips and career tips and employer tips. Yes, through.
And are you staying current with that, or is that a few years older?
It's a few years old. I haven't put anything on Pinterest in a long time, but I do look at it. I mean, I like to decorate my house and my yard, so I have to check it out.
Are you that guy? Are you one of those guys who's like, fidgety with your stuff? Like,
yeah. Look at my stuff. I mean, I've got to be very buttoned down in order for my brain to be organized.
I got to hear more. Projects, or did you do a deck thing? Like everybody who likes doing what you like doing, like did something to their backyard.
Yeah. So we just moved on March 27th to a new house in an adjacent neighborhood. We needed a little more space. We didn't know at the time that things were going to start getting locked down. It was crazy to have, 3 big sweaty guys come touch all your stuff at that time. And so that was a little nuts, but we were home, right? So I got it knocked out, all the arranging of things in a few short weeks. And the first thing I did was my garage. And so I've got this wonderful 3-car garage. It's Texas, right? So we have big places. And so I've got in there a space that doubles as a man cave and a gym. And that was the first thing I did. And boy, it is cool. I'll just tell you that.
Man, oh Manischewitz, you have the things. In this process, in this kind of being home, everybody seems to have taken up weird quarantine hobbies as well.
Yeah.
I have avoided most of those. All I have really done is eat and cook like I'm a stoner, which I am not. I have.
Are you not working out anymore? What's going on?
I've consumed a little more alcohol than I used to.
Yeah.
But I did not like learn how to like make sourdough and stuff like that. Did you pick up any of those weird habits and hobbies?
So it's funny. I've been learning the technical nuances of TikTok. The things that you think you always should figure out. I don't post things on TikTok. I do have a Fish Dogs TikTok account that I use to monitor my kids' activities.
There's no Craig dancing ones. I can't.
There's no Craig dancing one. No, it's. I think it's going to be digital strategy tips when I finally start doing it. But I'm learning about it because just like Snapchat and any other platform that I don't really use much, I feel like I should know about it. So yeah, this is me just doing research, and it's
just peeking. Okay.
Pretty boring hobby to pick up.
Do you find yourself, for instance, when I started to really get serious about YouTube, I subscribed to a whole bunch of channels, and I really did the work to like watch them instead of, shows. I watch more YouTube than I watch Netflix, according to my browser.
Right.
And so do you find that you have some TikTok subscriptions that you didn't think you were going to have? You know what I mean? That you suddenly find yourself, for whatever reason, fixating on, Taco Guy or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of funny ones that I am fixated on, but my hero is a guy who I know here in Dallas. He's a friend of mine. His name's Ali Mirza, and he does these short 15-second snippets of smart digital strategy tips.
Oh, okay.
And a lot of them are about TikTok. So I strive to emulate him. He's brilliant.
Interesting. I just don't. I was this way about Snap. I guess I became an old man 10 or more years ago and didn't know it. But when everybody started talking about how cool Snap was, I said, don't. Right. And TikTok, I just said, let kids have it because I can't deal with it.
There's a guy, there's one guy I should tell you about. There's one guy, it's at Bruce, and he either is Bruce Willis or he looks like Bruce Willis.
Oh, wow.
Either way, it's really funny.
I've got to check that out then. Does he climb around in ducks a lot?
No, he just does cool stuff. Like it's like he's learning Spanish or something in his spare time. And so he'll have the Spanish song going or the Spanish instructor going, and he'll talk over it and just smirk like Bruce. And it's funny. Yeah.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Kip says, Craig, where are coders hanging out in COVID-19 times? Are they in new places?
Yeah, there's lots of places. So some of the hacker platforms. So we do these things called hackathons in order to understand, what coders do and how well they do it. In times like this where you can't interview people face to face, you have to use assessments and other things like hackathons. So check out places like Hacker Earth and Hacker Rank, and you'll find coders talking about code all over the place. And then there are lots of places where coders post code, snippets of code, and you can also find them in those kind of chat rooms.
Cool. Robert Collins points out that YouTube's How It Should Have Ended is must-see viewing. If you're a comic and, comic movie nerd, there's always like, how the new Star Wars movie should have ended and that sort of a thing. Great.
Okay, writing that down. Mm-hmm.
Yep. Just write Hishe, Hishe.
Got it. Yep.
It is a animated show, very fun. Kind of lots of inside jokes after a little while. There's like a kind of a Superman and Batman back and forth that's gone on for very many episodes, which is kind of worth going backwards to browse. If you haven't looked at Hot Ones on YouTube, which is Sean Evans out in Chicago, basically does an interview show where there's 10 chicken wings all in a row with increasing spice capacity on them. And so he interviews all kinds of celebrities of all different walks, entertainment mostly. So movie people or rappers or something like that. Really interesting gets like, Idris Elba or Shaquille O'Neal or, all those kinds of people.
Okay, I'm going to watch
the
that
wings,
for sure.
Sorry?
Maybe we can get Reed Hoffman to talk about that.
Oh, I'd be there for it. So as the wings go on, your body stops, like you're trying to fight the pain of the chicken wing, being so hot.
Right.
So you stop being so guarded. So it's like truth serum as the wings go on. So
yeah, so I've seen that show, and it is there's a version of it on TV.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. He
great.
he graduated to grown-up TV, and I'm kind of hoping he gets knocked off and just sticks with us for more.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. I saw Ricky Gervais do it, and it was hilarious. And then he talked about it on the Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend podcast.
Yes, that is true. That's one of my favorite podcasts, by the way.
Mine as well. Yeah, it's amazing. And you yourself, I feel like you are like Dax Shepard. You're the Dax Shepard of digital marketing.
The Dax Shepard. I'll take that.
You get people to say all kinds of stuff on your show. It's great.
I will take that. I will take that, Dax Shepard. That is so interesting. I'm taking that compliment a lot further than you probably meant it, but I'll go with it. Now I just need that woman.
We all do.
But so I want to go back because I think I asked you a question and I didn't really punch enough for the answer. So you just got fired again. Sorry, I have to keep using you.
Yeah.
What are my hacks? What do I do? What do I stand up? You said keep making content. That's the part I got.
Right.
Does it kind of begin and end there? Keep making content and use robot resumes. What else is in the pile?
So here's the thing. So this was my first time ever being laid off, ever being paid to leave a job. And so I'm really enjoying the process of, so I don't actually think applying for jobs works great. Okay. I think networking your way into a job works really well. And at some point you have to apply, but, there are a lot of recruiters, in the world, some of my favorite people who work for big companies who refuse to work with an outside agency like a temp staffing firm or an executive search firm. They want to work with only applicants to their organization. So applying to jobs does work apparently, and it's still an important thing to do. But beyond that, you really do need to utilize your networks like LinkedIn and Twitter and find the recruiters who work for that company, connect with them, like their stuff, comment on their stuff, and get to know them and show up in their peripheral vision 17 times before you ever reach out to them and say, hey, I applied to your job. Could you point me to the right person? Because I'd love to have a chat. Right. And so
get that one-on-one connection.
That's right. If they know you a little bit because you've been a good network citizen around their periphery, then they're going to start to feel like maybe you have some subject matter expertise if you're also posting interesting thing about the topic that you want to work in.
I am excited about that only because I always think like I don't know good advice for something. And when sometimes you validate the advice, I go, look, if Fish Dog said it,
right,
it's got to be good.
Well, yeah.
Well, I ostensibly I think it's good advice because you said it. You who do you pursue out there, so to speak? Where do you keep your eye turned for kind of next phase bellwether? Like, where are you grabbing insights? And this is your chance to admit that you're not grabbing as many insights right now just because of the shenanigans of this quarantine, because I keep looking for people who buck the trend of being super productive and are just watching my kids on the lawn a lot. But where do you look for trends? So
it's funny. You're going to love this. I like to see what Elon Musk is doing. Okay. Now that's an easy answer, right? But it's not because of SpaceX, and it's not because of, cars and things like that. It's because the way he approaches social media is fascinating. He takes bait all the time and comments on weird things on people's Twitters, and is very not aggressive, but transparent, right, all the time. And I think that transparency is what makes him an interesting and enigmatic character. He does sometimes talk in circles, but some of the stuff that he says is so amazing, so out there that it could be true, right? I mean, he talks about the sentient digital extension of yourself, which he's building a company that will insert pins in your brain to connect to some outside computer, right? And he thinks that means we're going along for the ride with AI. And we use a lot of AI technology in recruiting. So all these bots that I tell you about that help recruiters and sourcers find people and then stack rank them to give them, the placement within the recruiter's vision. There's a lot of that going on here. So I'm very into the AI conversation and have been for several years. So when I listen to that, he says we're already doing that. It's our phone. Our phone is already the digital sentient extension of us. And we can't do anything without our phones. And he's actually very correct about that. So, the conversations that he's having, I find very apropos to the recruiting industry. And I firmly believe that the way he goes about just talking to people and even getting in arguments and having, those conversations is great. He has an opinion. He's controversial. I think that's something that you have to be able to do if you're going to be a leader and if you're going to make a difference.
So this isn't a question. It's more or less like an overlay of what you just said. So Gabe Newell, who is the head of Steam and the company Valve, basically, he says about video games, he goes, when you look at what's going on with VR in video games right now, it's easy to brush it off. It's easy to get it. There's just new announcements. Facebook said they're not going to sell any more of one of their Oculus devices. They're discontinuing stuff everywhere. Another really prominent person, like kind of the Craig Fisher of AR and VR, Kathy Hackle, got laid off from Magic Leap because they let a whole bunch of people go.
They did.
It feels like writing on the wall wise, like, oh, this isn't very good, right? But Gabe says what's going on is we're developing stuff that we're going to write games that talk directly to your ocular cortex and are going to skip the interpretation of us having to look at a piece of glass.
Right.
And he says, so you think right now when you look at this VR, you're like, well, it's pretty clunky, but we're going to be years ahead of everybody else if you don't design for it right now. Are you seeing that sort of correlation? And I just want you to have that information because it totally goes with what Elon's saying about the Geordie LaForge stuff.
Yes. So I actually did some employer branding digital strategy stuff for Magic Leap. And so I've been watching exactly what's going on over there. And it is a real strange thing. But what's happening, it's not the technology that's sort of getting sloughed off. It's the hardware. And that's exactly right, because we are the Geordie LaForge thing is exactly, you make a great reference, because the games are sort of starting to be more in your brain. So you're going to be able to wear a headset instead of an eyepiece because it's going to go right in your eardrum and into the bone structure and right. And you're going to be able to see it through sound, which is a crazy thing, but that's just the way it's going. And so it's a new skill set that's being developed out there. And all you gamers, all you STEM graduates who are starting to, think about your careers, get some experience doing this. And, it's either that or, cybersecurity, right? This is the immediate future.
It's amazing, really. It's just amazing that all our, Robert Collins is a fellow pop culture nerd, references so deep that he probably just jumped up and down when I said Geordie LaForge.
He's pretty great.
Yeah. Oh, so you're aware of the man.
Yeah.
It is most definitely to me this world where, William Gibson said it. He said the future is already here. It's just not evenly distributed. And so it feels like that's a lot more real than it used to be. Do you feel the same?
It is. So even though we're still talking about ancient platforms like LinkedIn on a regular basis, right? Even LinkedIn is still innovating. Now, when Microsoft bought them a few years ago, I said at that time, just wait. This is a brilliant move. You're going to start seeing your LinkedIn contacts show up as available contacts in Outlook and other places. And turns out, of course, that's true. And so when you see acquisitions and when you see industries start collapsing and getting gobbled up by each other, that's where innovation is going to really start to happen. And so it's not like so we're in a weird economy right now, but this economy is going to spur so much growth and development that we probably can't even see it all at this point, but it's already happening. And so years ago, I started the first LinkedIn certified training company. And LinkedIn gave us a certification that they had not given anyone else. They immediately had to disband that program because all of their other vendors were so up in arms about it. But they paid me to train all of their salespeople on how to use LinkedIn better because I was looking ahead. I took LinkedIn apart And I said, this is one of the greatest search engines I've ever seen. And it's also picked up by all the other search engines. Indeed followed that same category of SEO. And now they're the greatest job board in the world because they just are open to Google, right? And so what's maybe going to happen soon, and I think this is, they tested it recently. LinkedIn tested closing off LinkedIn to Google search results, which I think will end up being one of the worst moves they could possibly make. If it happens, though, it's going to be a paid service for everyone. No one's going to have free LinkedIn anymore. And you know what? We're all going to pay for it. So this is my vision in the future.
Wow. You heard that here way before you're going to see it. And I am willing to believe it.
Yeah.
You can get a lot more of Craig Fisher if you follow him on the tweeters at FishDogs.
Yeah.
I'm looking right at the word and say the wrong thing. You go to fishdogs.com. It is at talentnetlive.com is the July event, correct?
Right. That's correct. Yep. And there will be top people from all over recruiting and employment, big employers, big tech vendors, hanging out, having conversations for 4 hours on a Friday afternoon on July 17th. It's going to be wonderful.
4 hours on a Friday afternoon. That is deadly.
And it's cheap. It's dirt cheap to attend this thing. Want to get to know employers better? Want to know recruiters? Want to ask those questions? Join us. TalentNetLive.com.
You're a good marketer, Craig Fisher. Thank you so much for coming on. Thanks for catching up with me. This was a lot of fun for me.
Chris Brogan, you're the best, buddy. I appreciate you.
I will catch you later. Everybody else, you know what time it is. Get out of here.